Okay, so I had an idea to riff on synastry, which means like how two signs get along between Taurus and Scorpio. And it was in my consciousness for a little while, and I was like, oh, I can't touch that right now. I am a Scorpio. I've known several Tauruses in my life, including in my own family. Anyway, I'm not going to project any of those experiences. I've also been super close with other Tauruses, or, you know, I know the sign very well. So, my grandmother was a Taurus, for example. So, yeah, I'm going to try to give the least biased report of this situation to my best of my ability. Just keep in mind, I am a Scorpio, so. Okay, so with opposite signs here, sorry about my wrinkles. Taurus would hate this. This is such an just shows how different we are. A Taurus would wake up and see this wrinkle and be like, what the hell? And a Scorpio would be like, oh cool, let's like fold it more and make it like an art piece. Or there might be some Scorpios who have irons and like do weird things with their irons. And I think a major, it's good that it started with the shirt, because material things and evolution versus conformity is sort of the crux here. So so first of all, they're opposite signs, very different people, different energies, and yet that opposition creates understanding, because they're attracting that opposite energy in their life by virtue of law of attraction. Scorpios will attract situations that, or people that are Taurus like, and their career may be related to Taurus issues because of the opposition there, especially, I mean, Taurus sun. And same for Scorpio sun may attract Taurus stuff and people, and then Taurus sun attracts Scorpio situations and Scorpio people, okay? And so it's like you can't get away from the opposition. It's just two sides of the same coin. And it's also the 7th house for each of them, which can be a contentious placement because it can mean legal matters. It can also be enemies, open enemies. And some astrologers would just say the other, like it can be like the force that is reckoned with, like the general energy of the people. Like a lot of Scorpio people can be contending with people who are obsessed with wealth. They may grow up in wealthy areas because Taurus represents wealth. And then a lot of Taurus people may be growing up with people who use resources like in interesting ways. Like with Scorpio can actually also be in a sign of wealth. It rules the stock market. So Taurus may gain wealth themselves from resources of other people, for one thing. So I mentioned there's contention here, but there's also a possibility for a beautiful relationship in some capacity. Scorpio, so these are both fixed signs, right? So that means that they are set in their ways. They're not going to change. And here's where the fixed signs all differ, though. Taurus wants to change things to the way they were. They're in a set mind frame about how things are, and that has to do with simplicity and like the order that comes from long held traditions. Okay? So they're trying to change things to where they were, to maintain peace. And that gets exhausting for them. And then Leo's trying to change things to their will. What do I want in the environment? So they can be powerful leaders. And then Scorpio is trying to change things to how they should be and to align with the truth to move us towards the future. So it's a transformational sign. Scorpio comes into an environment and points out the toxin and says, this is not right. This is not right. And of course, Taurus is a sign that loves food. This is another point of axis here, that Scorpio can be Epicurean, where they have a specific taste, maybe like fancy wine people or like fancy cheese or whatever. May just have specific dietary needs, okay? Because of their Virgo hits, or Mercury hits their sixth house. Okay, I'll talk about that later. They have interesting sixth house situation. So then Taurus will just kind of like eat like all the everything. They're a sign of eating, okay? They love to eat, but also they can be like, they will like binge maybe, or just they love to like go, and they probably don't have food restrictions as a Scorpio would. Like they would like eat, you know, a big old rack of lamb with like mashed potatoes or whatever, cheese. Like they really have, they can be thin too, but they can also put on weight. So that's a big difference there. And I mentioned the shirt before because, okay, so this is materiality. So Taurus thinks of things as like ownership. This is mine and I own this. And they're like also like a farmer in the subconscious. They're like planting and taking care of their garden that they're growing, which has to do with resources, okay? And they're probably their home. And Scorpio, yeah, Scorpio's a little different in this capacity. Scorpio, the shirt to Scorpio isn't about ownership. It's about the magic and the alchemy of existence. It's like Scorpio is the kind of person who may, there's all different kinds, but one Scorpio may go down the street and, I'm sorry, I got cut off because I was in a location, that was stressful. But I'll just post these as 2 different videos because I realize that for some people the long format is annoying and no one watches these anyway. So it's really just for anyone in the future who is curious about these dynamics, because I've Googled Synastry and haven't found much info. So yeah. Okay, so I was gonna say Scorpio might walk down the street and just like give their shirt to a random stranger. Whereas a Taurus, no, they're like, no, this is my shirt. I bought this at J. Crew on sale last season and I need it and it's like $400 and you know, it's very important to me. It matters to me. This is my thing. And Scorpio is like, they see resources as interchangeable and as like sort of like interdependent, and also a lot of their money comes to them from luck, because second house can be income and Sagittarius is second house. And really Scorpio can be similar to Aquarius. They can be non-conformists in society. And so we'll talk more about the polarity here. So, sorry, I do need some water. So just let's talk about the elements. We've got earth and water. Water flows. Water is Scorpio and it changes, and the kind of water that Scorpios is like a deep ocean, or like a deep water, it's about the depths, whereas Pisces would be like all the ocean, like breadth, and then Cancer would be like my feelings, like just like a little pool of water or something, or like a lake, not to offend Cancer, but or like, I'm just saying that the way that they all deal with this water is different. So Scorpio can be tempestuous, or like they can have like intense feelings that go up and down. And then Taurus, they're sort of like, I feel like they have 2 feelings, which is like happy and mad, whereas, you know, there can be intensity there, but Scorpio can be more complex, okay, in their feelings. So, and then more complexity in their view. So, and then let's go talk about the animals just themselves. So you may think in the initial fight that Taurus wins because we got this bull and it's big and it's got this big energy, and bull in a china shop, right? And then we got this scorpion who's tiny but has this like insight and stings with precision, and the poison could kill you. So an old way that this dynamic goes down, that some astrologers would say that Taurus stomps on what they don't like, Scorpio says, oh, we're gonna die, let's die together, and stings them as they're going down. Also, just issues of revenge between both of these. Like, what's most likely to happen is that Scorpio will transform the power dynamic and make a standstill where Taurus sees their reckless ways, because Taurus can be reckless. Scorpio can be impetuous, which means impulsive, but that impulse usually comes from their Mars inclination, which is intuition. And then Taurus can be just reckless, the act without thinking. You know, they have Aries in the first house, in the 12th house. So their subconscious motivation could be just impulsivity. Okay, let's talk about the dynamics between the two of them a little more, how they get along. Scorpio is very complex in their nature, and that may feel like a pain in the butt for Scorpio. Sorry, I confused my words. I was saying that Scorpio is complex, and that may be a pain for Taurus. Taurus likes simplicity. Taurus really is like they like small comforts, you know, creature comforts. Like, they might be afraid of a Scorpio who comes in with all this psychic insight. Scorpio is a sign of psychic ability. That might be scary for the Taurus, who relies on tradition and what's known and conformity, to be honest. And so some archetypes that each sign relates to are so Scorpio is the Phoenix rising, and the Scorpion, of course, the eagle, the dove, and Taurus is the bull. But also Taurus is the banker and the artist, whereas Scorpio is known. Scorpios can be artists, and they can also be, you know, Scorpio has an obsessive tendency, is what I'm trying to get at. Okay. I don't know if there's an archetype for that. I guess Scorpio can be the orator. They can be great speakers, because their second house is in Sagittarius, which is a sign of speaking. And they can be sort of obsessive people, similar to Virgo. They can be intense. Scorpio, their greatest victory is they can be like an alchemical genius. Like, they can transform the conflict and then have the upper hand and then just disappear, usually, and create some power dynamic where the other person is afraid, but the Scorpio isn't going to do anything. It's like usually how it goes, because ultimately Scorpio is a sign of peace. With the dove is the final transformation. And we can look at them going through a conflict as them going through all these symbols, the snake, the lizard, the scorpion, the eagle, the dove, and also the phoenix in there. That all these transformations and changes that they go through, and crises, it feels foreign to Taurus, who wants just simplicity. They just want, like, peace. And they may feel like the Scorpio is dramatic, whereas the Scorpio may see the Taurus as, like, just sort of like flippant. Like, they may see them as like superficial, or like they only care about financial, or like they only care about like having a big fancy ring, and that like makes them look ostentatious. They only care about how things look on the outside. They may think that, they may just think that they're shallow, that they don't understand complexity, and that they have a temper problem. That's how Scorpio sees Taurus, and that they're possessive of things. And then and then Taurus just sees Scorpio as sort of like a pain in the butt that's like obsessing about things. But that's the real, I would say this is like an axis of power here, of like this like who has the power. And ultimately Scorpio shows that power is transformative, and power, like, Scorpio usually has a lot of Libra in the chart, so their power will be also concerned with what is just and what is right and what is fair. And then Taurus will stick to age-old isms to defend themselves. They may hide behind their reputation or their standing in society. Okay, and then if this were a sexual dynamic, it would be very intense, with Scorpio showing the depth of soul that can happen in intimacy to Taurus, and Taurus showing the joys of sensuality to Scorpio. I was getting at before that Scorpio has a real capacity for like long-term focus, and Taurus might not. So Scorpio has a capacity for like, I was gonna say editing. Like they may have be someone who has long projects that go on for a long time, or they may be someone who has a hypnotic focus at their job. Like there may be someone who like goes through a bunch of data and like analyzes it. They're very analytical. So it's a really different kind of thing. Whereas Taurus it represents also like the toddler in terms of age, and then Scorpio's around 40 in terms of the age of the soul. So it's really a different energy. It's like, again, and then with the 12th house, Scorpio's 12th house is in Libra. So that creates a huge justice focus, that they may subconsciously be like always thinking of what's fair and what's right, and that is exhausting for Taurus, because Taurus doesn't see things that way. With the 12th house in Aries says, Taurus thinks of what works for me, which isn't right or wrong. It's just like sort of sovereignty in the self. Yeah, and unfortunately, their 12 houses they are problematic. Their subconscious needs are at odds. They're also opposite each other. So, I'm just gonna try to think a little more. But okay. Also, Taurus can be like a hoarder of objects. They can like love to collect things. And they can also like, they could be like drinkers, or, really any sign can have addiction. If either were to have addictions, this is how it's different. Scorpio uses his addiction to like escape and fall into like self-punishing tendencies, and then and to recover from like crisis or trauma. And then Taurus uses addiction because they're like, I love that beer. That tastes so good. Where is that from, that beer? Oh my God, that's so unique. Like, I guess that's where a little bit of the Scorpio comes into the Taurus, because the Taurus is like, they can be like, I really like this like specific restaurant, and it reminds me of that time we went there, and it's like, food can be like a huge comfort for them. And Scorpios can be like that too. They can put on a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight, because similar issues, but in a different way. It's like the food can become self-denial and self-punishing. Okay, or it can become gluttonous. So yeah, okay, I was going to talk more about just like some of the energies that like could be positive, like where they could connect. Like Scorpio can be very nurturing and like emotionally, and can help people see where they may be stuck. And Scorpio's obsessive tendency can help others, like they can listen to someone's problems, and like they can then analyze and be like, here's what I think you should do. And Scorpio and Taurus Tauruses can be teachers or healers in different ways. They teach about comfort, and that sensual comfort heals. And it's like a very basic understanding, but it's actually really genius. And okay, so here's where it gets confusing. Scorpios are known as geniuses in the zodiac, but Taurus is opposite that genius. So they're able to access genius in a certain way. They're them on their own. But that may be Taurus's downfall here, is that Taurus may think at one point that they've won, but Scorpio has amazing strategy. I keep going back to the conflict, because even if they're getting along, these two, there's some underlying conflict, Scorpio would rather illuminate the truth, even if it's uncomfortable socially, then keep the peace. And Taurus would rather keep the peace and thinks that Scorpios need to bring out truths is an assault on their life and on their peace. That's kind of the crux of it. But I was going to say, like, and then Taurus can offer a wonderful grounding place for the Scorpio also, who's like, can be a little bit like, I'm floating around, like eccentric personalities, okay, under this sign. Like, no matter what decan, Pisces especially, that Pisces decan in the middle of the month, but really all Scorpios can be very eccentric people because they're fixed in their ways. And those ways will have to do with sometimes the arts or I'm going to hit on what they're close to. They're close to Sagittarius, and they're smack in the middle of Sagittarius and Libra. So their sense has to do with justice and truth. And then Taurus's sense has to do with self and communication and who we're in relation with, our neighbors, because the third house, since their second house is in Gemini, which is the third house. Sorry, it's getting convoluted. Since Taurus has a second house in Gemini, they have a big focus on the people around them. Like, Gemini can be the people that are in close contact with us, right? People we talk to. So they may really care what people think. It's like a huge thing for them. And then Scorpio can see that and can poke on that because they get their self-esteem. Their second house is in Sagittarius. That illuminates the truth, major truth teller. And guess what? Sagittarius is an aggressive sign. They can be like, here's the truth. And I've lived with Sagittariuses before who've been like, this isn't working, here's why, you need to leave. And it's like, I left because they were right. That was I think just one time. But I've had like other friends that were Sagittarius that were like, here's the truth, you don't want to hear it, I'm going to tell you. And it's like, it was hard for me, but then I had to realize that I have so much of that in myself because I'm a Scorpio and I'm so close to Sagittarius. So, and I have a lot of Sagittarius, or not a lot, significant Sagittarius stuff in my chart happening. So, feel drained. It's also just like, it's such an intense interaction. Scorpio they both usually notice like how attractive the other one is, even if it's like same sex. They're like, oh, because Taurus can be a sign related to Venus, which is just beauty. So they can be beautiful people, like aesthetically, and they really value like peaceful, tranquil environments. And then Scorpio, where they are next to Libra, they can have usually a lot of like Libra in the chart, which can lend itself to beauty. And also a lot of ancient astrologers would say that Scorpio has unique beauty because of the 12th house being in Libra. So both might say, oh, look, that beautiful person. You know, that might be the initial attraction. 7th house can also just be partnership. And so there may be a long-standing partnership here. And what was I gonna say? There may be like the first Taurus can feel like jealous of the Scorpio. I know that sounds like a little bit one-sided, but Scorpio is an older sign. They have a different kind of wisdom. They've had more lives, and there may be like talents or insight that it's almost like the Scorpio is here to teach the Taurus, because I do see signs with older and younger signs as teaching experiences. So, and that's just sort of how I see it. So if you're an Aquarius and you're dating a younger sign, like a Gemini, that's going to be a teaching role where you're teaching them, because a Gemini is going to be wowed by the Aquarius's insight and their genius and their knowledge and all the things that they had to share. And it's much older, the wisdom, because they've had more lives. And then, yeah, same for the other way around. If for me, I'm a Scorpio, dating a Pisces or interacting with a Pisces feels like I'm being schooled, because they have an older wisdom than me. It's not like they win, but it's not like they always would like defeat in a conflict or something, but that may be the lesson that Scorpio needs to learn, that it's not about winning in conflict, just for example. Okay, so So that's just some of the structure here, that it might feel annoying for the Taurus, that the Scorpio is like, oh, I'm so like depthful and I'm like a shaman and like I've been through all this like crisis, and the Taurus is like, you know what, I don't care. Taurus is like, can you just like go away? And then eventually the Scorpio will go away because they'll probably be hurt by something that the Taurus said. The Taurus can have foot and mouth syndrome, and Scorpio is very sensitive and takes things personally, and even if they don't take it personally, they can be like, under my morals, this is not right what you did or how you said it. And but in the more like spiritual sense, it's a beautiful relationship, I have to say, because this conflict or this standoff, that it teaches the other. One learns from the other. The Scorpio learns from Taurus that there are simple things that can like govern us or like make rules that can help us and can be boundaries. And then the Scorpio teaches the Taurus there's complexity, there's nuance, there's more to the story. It's not just black and white, it's gray, it's tones of gray, it's sepia. And that illuminates the world for the Taurus. So the Taurus can say, oh, okay, it's not all about me and the people around me. It's also about truth and justice, which is what Scorpio is trying to tell. Wow, intense reading. So I have more. I might like tell more, but it can be an intense sexual dynamic. Also, people cusping these signs, interacting with other people cusping these signs. Say you're an Aries Taurus cusp, interaction with a Scorpio Libra cusp, Scorpio Sag cusp. These dynamics can still show up, and these can also be for your ascendant as well. These will work. Yeah, so it's oh, in Scorpio, I mentioned Taurus can be jealous of Scorpio. Sorry, before I end. Scorpio can also be jealous of Taurus, just because Scorpio is a sign of jealousy. But they'll probably realize that their jealousy has more to do with like things that they find are unfair, which is very Scorpio. Like Taurus usually will have money from the father, because Taurus is a sign of wealth and sun means father, so they usually come from money, and that brings them a lot of advantages that the Scorpio will see as unfair, even though their father usually either had resources or like wealth. Like my dad literally did work on the stock market when I was a kid, which is funny because Scorpio rules the stock market, and having the sun there means your father could be in the stock market. So they may have a father who worked in finances, the Scorpio, or some sort of like something that like involved like financial literacy. So Scorpio may have had a more like the father may have been like using multiple resources to raise them, and they may have not been around as much also, because Scorpio can be a disappearing act. And then the Taurus has a much different relationship with the father. So Scorpio is jealous of things like this. And also Scorpio has maybe had a lot of boyfriends or something and girlfriends, because second house and Sag, and they're like, you know, unique and beautiful and whatever, and like, you know, they've had lovers. But Taurus will usually have like a long standing mate that's like their mate forever, or they would hope that is, because they're a sign of partnership. They're like Venus is their ruler, and they want that stability, and also the financial stability is huge for them. That is a huge reason for them to have a partner, whereas Scorpio is changing in their life a lot, so they may change and move through partners. So that's what I have for now. Thank you so much. I think the recommendation for both signs, if any of them are watching this, is like, just like see that the other has a point, but also respect your point and carry on with your life. Like Scorpio, you do you, and you just be like a weirdo, like who's obsessed with like being in a trance and like finding how we can make the world better. And Taurus, you just like live in your castle and like, you know, do what you want in your castle and be there, and that's it. And I love you both, and have a great day.